you covered a lot of big time football games. And I think while you were there, 2009 Ole Miss, 2010 Alabama, 2010 Florida in the Swamp, obviously the SEC championship game, all the games in 2011 in Athens against Georgia. Is there one that stands out for you as like the craziest or just most memorable game that you've ever covered that week, that weekend, that game specifically? Just like a moment that stands out for you covering the Gamecocks, if you will.
I enjoyed hearing you. I was like trying to think of those as you rattled them off there. So that Ole Miss game, I think a lot of people point to as kind of the turning point of when it really shifted. Like, right. Can we do it? To yes, we can do it. There was a Kentucky game that was a Thursday night game that was also really similar to that Ole Miss game. I feel like, I think for me, it probably is that Florida game at the Swamp, because you're covering kind of this turning point moment where it's Spurrier back where he had all his success. They've got to get a win on the road at Florida. Not a great Florida team, but still Florida. And then Lattimore in kind of this defining moment for his time at South Carolina before all the injuries derailed what he was doing, like put the team on his back and found a way. And that moment, you could feel, even in Gainesville and trying to get back the next day, you could feel the energy from Columbia about what that moment meant in a really similar way to what the College World Series championships were like. That we were in Omaha, but you could feel the energy from half a country away about what had just happened, that some history, a box got checked that had been unchecked for ever. And so that, I think, was probably the game in the moment, even though it wasn't a home game. So you didn't have that celebration. But no, I mean, it's the Alabama game. I don't think there's any question about it. It is. Yeah. I mean, I remember me and Michael Haney, who's not my brother, but we always joke that he is my brother. Yeah. We rode in a golf cart from their radio site at Bojangles, RIP Bojangles, and
seriously
rode up to the Horseshoe to game day and like have these passes to like watch game day from the side stage, and then rode back. And just like that whole day just kind of felt there was magic on that whole day. And it's hard to explain, like even that morning, it just felt like something different was about to happen. And granted, that didn't turn out to be that was a 3-loss Alabama team. But still, I mean, in the middle of that run for South Carolina to have that game and just kind of have everything go perfectly for an afternoon. And some of the Alshon plays are just absolutely incredible. The one where he beasts Drake or Patrick on the sideline is one of, that comes to mind immediately when I think about South Carolina football. Yeah. And I remember the postscript to that day is I lived at one of the condos that was like right around the corner from the stadium. So I was walking home from the stadium and I walked past where the old coaches' offices were in the parking lot. And sure enough, Spurrier standing there in the parking lot. And it was like 10:30 at night. And I probably scared him to death. I was just like, hey, Steve, hey. And he's kind of figured out who I was. And he's like, oh, hey, Trav. And he just starts like gushing about how that day was for him. And I just thought that was, for me personally, a really unique moment, that this was very clearly a historically big moment for the whole program and school. And to run into him the way that I did and kind of hear what it meant to him in terms of getting over the hump. And, you beat Alabama. That it's 10 years later, and that's still a really big deal in college football. You know what I mean? So that was a really significant moment. I remember being on Feinbaum earlier that week, one of the first few times I was on as that had me call in or whatever. And I said, I'm not just saying this, Paul, but I really think South Carolina has a chance in this game. And he about laughed me off the show. He thought that was the most ridiculous thing that he'd ever heard. He was still based in Alabama then, but I had a feeling that week that they were talent-wise pretty well positioned, and they were feeling pretty good, and everything just clicked for them. But that was a really memorable day.